Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
Welcome again to Whiskey Congress. We do have a new whiskey to talk about. The Rittenhouse Bottled and Bond straight rye whiskey. Mm-hmm. Like it, don't love it. I'm going to give it an 89.
Yeah, that's a solid score for it. I mean, it's okay. It's not great. It's not
bad. The price point was cheap. I think at $25.
Yeah, $25. And so what's interesting about Rittenhouse is that it's actually another whiskey out of the Heaven Hill distillery, right? But I think if you compare this to the Evan Williams white label bottle and bond that we just had a couple weeks ago, like there's some noticeable differences here, right? Like, so you have multiple things coming out of that distillery of the same sort of, from the same kind of idea.
Right.
And yet, this is a very distinctly different, there's just less overall definitive flavor.
I agree.
There are some fruit notes. There's some smoke. There's some oak. There's a little bit of spice to it, but the alcohol, I think, kind of overpowers it at the end.
It's not a bad burn, though.
No. It's not bad. It just gets.
But I agree. It does take away some of the.
Yeah, like some of those distinct flavors just kind of get taken away at the end. There's no age statement on it, so it's it's not. I have to imagine that it's a younger bottled and bond, like whatever the minimum is. I think it's like a minimum of 3 years or whatever it needs to be for the BIB. It's probably there, and that's why that alcohol is kind of so pungent towards the end. But again, it's not terrible. It's not great. But
89 is no insult, right? For
$25, it's not bad. But at that same price point, you could probably do better. Like I said, the Evan Williams white label bottle and bond, you could definitely do better with. If you can find the original Heaven Hill bottle and bond white label, then you would obviously, I think, in my humble opinion, you would be doing better. But and also to that note, I've been talking about that Heaven Hill bottle and bond a lot lately, and I just found out that it's actually coming back. Heaven Hill is reintroducing it to the market, but it's going to be at a higher price point. I think it was one of those things where they said, take it away, make them want it more. And then I saw some early pictures of the design of the bottle. They upgraded the presentation a little bit. And I think it's going to go, like, you used to be able to get that bottle for between $15 and $20. And what I saw, that price point is going to go up to $42, which is still well worth the price. I think if it tastes like it did, that's well worth the price. And they're probably going to make a killing on it, right? Because they're probably not spending that much more money on what they were doing before, but they had practically doubled the price on it. So
they proved themselves in the market, and
people pay what they pay. Heaven Hill is one of the oldest distilleries.
That particular offering.
Right. Yeah, but that particular offering's been around forever as well. So, as long as they keep everything the same, then they probably stand to make a killing on that. Apart from, when we talk with Ben, the impact some of the tariffs are having on the whiskey industry in the U.S. There were more reports this week of a couple other distilleries, smaller distilleries, going under just because they couldn't keep up because they just lost their market share in a couple different other countries, and they just weren't able, they put a lot into it and then they weren't able to recoup the money, and they just weren't big enough, to keep up. So just something to kind of keep in mind.
All right. So again, I'm not saying it's a strong buy, but definitely something that you won't regret.
No, it's not bad.
It's not bad. It definitely will not. In fact, the good thing about it is it's not that expensive and it's not that good. So if on a Tuesday night I feel like having a straight whiskey, I won't feel bad tapping into this.
And
hitting the Booker's or something like that.
Yeah, if you wanted to blend this into a Manhattan or an old fashioned, then you could. And I think it would, and I think a couple good Luxardo cherries and some good vermouth, and dress this up pretty good.
Okay, there's our whiskey talk for the day or for the week. How much of the Democratic debates? I don't want to call them debates, but we'll get to that. How much did you watch?
Live. Live. Well, I didn't watch anything live of the first night. Just had too much going on. Last night, I did watch a decent amount. I would say I probably watched about 45 minutes of the presentation. And, it's interesting. The format, it feels like Around the Horn on ESPN. Okay. If you watch, you know that show. Where you have a short amount of time to talk, and you got people giving, you've got the moderator giving points on good points, taking points away for bad points. That's what
they actually did. That
no, God, no. But that's what it felt like.
All right. The fact that I had to ask that, so I need to come in clean. I watched zero. Okay. I did some reading of people's thoughts about things. I did see some YouTube clips of things, but to me, this feels like I'm watching The fucking Bachelor. 10 people a night. 2 nights in a row, you're not going to get to make a legitimate point. It's all about how well can you get your one soundbite, your one jab, your one whatever in to make a name for yourself, or how bad can you fuck up? That's the only thing I see out of this, and I've been busy, so that's the real reason I didn't watch any of it. But I'm also partially protesting because I think this is a horrible thing.
Well, I mean, you do love your random protests, but what I will say is,
remember the time I apologized for my random protest? No, because it never happens. Because I'm not going to. Because I do it for a reason.
Which is fine. You're entitled to your nonsense. But no, so I don't like the feel of these either. You got entirely too many people, and with that many people on stage, even with 2 hours or whatever it is, it just doesn't feel like you're really getting into it with the candidates. So what you said, I think there are things to be gleaned from these debates. Like I went back and I did watch a fair amount of the first debate. And actually I went back and I watched more of the second debate as well. And so what I will say is that you are able to glean certain things from these things in terms of body language and their ability to kind of think quickly on their feet and process information. And, that matters because when you get on the big stage and it's just you and Donald Trump, because eventually it will be, you're going to need to be able to process information. You can't let someone, Donald Trump or whoever, get under your skin. And you have to be able to react appropriately. You have to be able to finish a thought. You have to be able to, clearly express a thought. You need to answer questions. Right? Answer the questions that have been asked. And so you saw a lot of people some of them kind of rose to the top with their ability to think quickly on their feet and answer questions and finish thoughts. Others, that's where you saw them kind of sink to the bottom, and they're going to complain that they don't like the format. And my thing to them is, well, this is the format, and if you want to win, you need to adapt to it. It just is what it is. Now, I'm not saying this is great, and I hope it's like this all the time, but it is what it is. So we have to look at it. This is what we have to work with, so we work with it. If we're going in terms of winners and losers, I think on the first night, I don't think there were huge winners. I think Julian Castro kind of stood out to me as a guy who, made up some ground, not only got his name out there, but really kind of expressed some good ideas and some good points. And again, we're only talking about 60-second sound bites, a minute sound bites. So there's not a lot of policy to analyze at this point. Sure. But I did think he presented well.
You were not the only one to say that to me. A lot of people asked me what I thought of Julian Castro, and I'm like, I told them I didn't watch. Because people come up to me, they know we do the show, and they want to talk politics with me, and I'm like, you know what? Didn't watch it. Seems like an interesting guy. He does have it. I mean, he was a HUD?
He was a secretary of HUD
under Obama.
Yeah.
And so he's got some big league experience, so to speak. And is he currently the mayor of San Antonio? If I'm wrong about that.
No, I think he's just out of. Okay. He's from Texas.
Okay.
And I think there's something to be said about that because Julian Castro is from Texas. He, obviously the last name Castro, first name Julian. He is Latino. And I think there was in that first night you saw Beto O'Rourke comes out and he's speaking Spanish. And, I wish that I had, an ability to throw up a panda bear with a like a big R on its stomach and have it be the Pander bear.
Okay, I was like, please.
I mean, because it's just like you're directly pandering, and that's somewhat to a degree kind of what campaigning is, but it's just so blatant, over the top. Beto O'Rourke did not show well.
That's the feedback I've gotten too.
He's really showing his lack of depth. And he was good at fundraising when he was running against Ted Cruz for the Senate seat, but that's because no one likes Ted Cruz.
They weren't donating to Beto O'Rourke because he was great. They're donating to, we have a shot at Ted Cruz.
Yes.
We had a shot at a Senate seat in
It's the
Texas.
same reason you were talking about voting for Jill Stein. It wasn't because you actually liked Jill Stein. It was because you just hated Hillary.
It was Gary Johnson. Or
whatever. Okay.
The other
interchangeable idiots. So I think... Beto O'Rourke is kind of coming out and you're seeing him kind of fall down. His numbers weren't great. His poll numbers weren't great going into the debate. They're not going to get better afterwards. Cory Booker, he had some good moments, but my biggest issue with Cory Booker is that everything is an outrage. Everything is slam your fist on the table and just be mad all the time. But he does it in times when it's not necessary.
Right.
There's no off with him. And what's unfortunate is I'm a big dude that runs hot, and I'm black, and I got a beard, and I can look intimidating, and I get the angry black man thing all the fucking time. I hate it. I can't fucking stand it. Right. But Cory Booker, from a political standpoint, that's kind of the position he's putting himself in, and he doesn't have to, because I've seen him be measured. I've seen him be thoughtful, and we're not getting enough of that from him. So if he can turn the outrage and frustration down. Oh, got a plane going over.
Plane going, yeah. We're dealing with no air conditioning here, folks. A little behind the scenes. So it's
Jim has it like nigga hot in here, right? I mean,
okay.
Damn, Jim.
I did not use that term to describe the. I told you
that's what we're
calling it. Okay.
For our 3 other black listeners, they know what that means.
Okay.
So, but
we have more than that.
So, but yeah, Cory Booker needs to turn down the everything is an outrage, and as a black, like, we get it, bro.
Right.
Like, we got you, but
part of what made Obama successful, right, is he was measured,
never, calm,
never really. I mean, a congressman yelled, "You lie!" in the middle of a fucking State of the Union address, and he gave that look like, he gave the look like, "Fuck you," but didn't say "fuck you," and then right back into stride.
Right. I mean, and there was a moment where Bill de Blasio is trying to make the relation. The connection to the black community, and he starts talking about his adopted black son. And, Cory Booker, his response was, "I am black," right? And that was actually a good moment for him. A bad look for Bill de Blasio, not being situationally aware of what was going on. And so I think Cory Booker probably picked up some points, but he probably could have picked up more if he's a little bit more measured, right? And not because to deflect away from the whole angry black man thing, but just as if you're going, like, knowing what you're going up against, if you make it out of the pack of Democrats and knowing you're going up against Trump is going to try to push buttons. He's going to say ridiculous things, and you're going to have to be measured. You can't get rattled. You can't get angry. You have to be able to fight fire with fire, but do it as cool as possible.
Yeah, I never try to ambush you with ideas on the show, but this came to me earlier and it just popped back in there. I think we should have an over and under as to how many Democrats are still in the field by the time we get to Iowa. And we can make it move around as things change.
We'll figure that out offline.
All right.
But
okay.
I
think it's a fun idea because
there's so many.
There's 23 or 24. I guess someone new joined. I don't even know who the fuck
it
was.
It'll be interesting to see how many people jump in and out over the next few months. I mean, and another point with all this, which is why it's frustrating, but I think it's worth talking about is and I talked to you about this last night a little bit, is the first caucus, the first primary vote isn't happening until after the Super Bowl. Okay? Now, the reason why that's significant is, if you're not aware, The NFL season hasn't even started yet.
The NFL preseason hasn't started yet.
NFL training camp hasn't started yet, right? So, I mean, technically you still have free agents out there, relatively decent names, who could still get signed in the NFL. So, we're a long ways away, before,
this is like,
anything really starts to shape up.
What do they give the guy who runs the fastest mile in a marathon? Nothing,
right? And so, I mean, it's relatively early. Historically, we do have enough data to know that if you're not polling in the top 3 to 5 at this point, then you're not going to win. Period.
Typically, but we haven't had a field of 23.
I fully agree, but I mean, it's not typically. I mean, like the data's pretty solid. I mean, we've been doing this a while, and if you're not we've never had this many before.
The question is, are we in the same world? Are we in the same world?
We're not in the same world, and I'll be the first to admit that. I mean, I was screaming that from the rooftops in 2015 and 2016. Like, things are different. You can't look at old things. But, I mean, there are certain little data points that we could at least go to at this stage and say, now, listen, things could change dramatically, but it's hard to say that they will because there's just certain people. Andrew Yang is not going to pick up, a ton of momentum. I don't believe that, Marianne Williamson is going to pick up a ton of momentum. And we can talk about her in a little bit because I've got some concerns with her mental stability. But, but again, that first night, I thought Elizabeth Warren, she stayed solid as the front runner out of that group.
Right.
I think Julian Castro really made a name for him, like not made a name for himself, but.
Well, I think it's fair. Most people don't know enough about him.
Well, what I will say is that I think he added a little shine to his.
Not so shiny, star. Not so shiny, but still star that's
a little. Yeah, I mean, his star is starting to get a little bit brighter.
What did you hear about? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And so, well, I mean, and I'm just because you didn't watch it, so I'm doing the analysis.
I understand.
So I think that's mostly what we got out of that, right? And then there was really no one else on the stage that first night that really stood out.
So I heard my girl Tulsi beat up on Tim Ryan pretty good. Tulsi Gabbard, because he said that we were attacked by the Taliban, and she was like, no, we were attacked by Al-Qaeda, and yes, there's a relationship there, but she kind of schooled him on that, and I heard he couldn't take his foot off the gas with his statement, and I'm not saying that's sending her through the roof, I'm not saying my girl's going the distance, but I do think she came out well, based on what I heard from others. Again, She didn't come out well. I mean, she didn't, she came out well on that particular instance. I don't know if, I mean, if you're going to say, well, hey, people were Googling her. Okay. I mean, because no one knows who the fuck she is.
Not my problem. I don't care. I mean,
it's not mine either.
She also didn't say anything that I was just like, oh, she is a person that I think she doesn't stand out to me for whatever reason. You've got a hard on for her. I don't know. A political one, whatever. I mean, she is an attractive woman. And she's got an interesting story. I think that for a number of these candidates, especially these younger candidates, that, the next time around in 2024, 2028, then they may be formidable candidates. But right now, they're just not there. They're too green. She's one of them. It's fine. Tim Ryan, it's disappointing. He's a Youngstown guy. But he made that flub about the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, and he just didn't really stand out. And he's ultimately probably going to go away. I can't imagine he's got enough money to really continue screwing around with this for much longer. But you don't really need to start really getting a ton of money in until you get to caucus and primary season anyway. Right. So I have a feeling a number of people are just going to hang on just for the publicity, and he and her will probably be. I think
Tim Ryan becomes an attractive potential VP candidate because he's an Ohio guy.
Bro, come on. Can we chill with this? Like, listen, we got 23 candidates. We got, 8 months until a single vote is cast. I don't want to hear any talk about VP candidates. I don't think he'll be a good VP candidate. I think he's a fucking wet sock. Right? I mean, people from Youngstown are going to chew me up over it, but I mean, he doesn't excite me one way or another. He doesn't, I mean, like, if you're going to beat Donald Trump, you need a strong ticket. He does not strengthen a damn thing. Like, yeah, he's from Youngstown. Yeah, he's from the Rust Belt, but That's about it.
Ohio's a weird state to try to win, like, because you're from that state, because Ohio is really 3 different states, right? Southern Ohio is essentially the South. We're essentially we are in the Rust Belt. We're Northeast or whatever, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Detroit, Youngstown, Cleveland, whatever. And then, the middle of Ohio is college town and farm country. So it's a weird state.
It is a weird state, tough to win. And so, there's...
That's why it's a swing state, right?
Right,
it's
exactly.
got different demographics throughout the state.
But, that doesn't mean... I'm still not having Tim Ryan anywhere near my administration. All right.
Yeah, no, actually, I was actually kind of checking my own statement, saying just because you got a Youngstown guy doesn't mean Cincinnati is going to go to Tim Ryan. So I'm actually agreeing with you. I'm kind of checking my own statement.
And then moving to the second night, which I watched a little bit more intently. I've talked about Kamala Harris a fair amount on this show the last probably month or so, and just saying that to me, I believe she's the strongest candidate. Not Joe Biden, not Elizabeth Warren. I think Kamala Harris is the strongest candidate just based off of paper and ability to perform under pressure. And yes, I give her a little bit of deference because of her history as a prosecutor and being an attorney. But I think her issue is she slips into pander mode. My prime example is you have the whole thing with Jussie Smollett. She jumps out on top of it, fighting for LGBTQ, completely, not acceptable what happened to Jussie. We love you, Jussie, the whole thing. And then and I didn't, and we talked about this. I didn't have a good feeling about the Jussie Smollett thing from jump. You were willing to give him a little bit more rope.
I was
than I was, and
that was good. I'm going to give you credit for that. That was well done.
You were willing to, just kind of hey, well, let's see what happens. I
don't regret doing that because
which is fine, but honestly,
it didn't pass the sniff test, and it turns out it shouldn't have because it stunk.
Right. I mean, did you see the most recent video with that, by the way, just to sidetrack?
No.
So the police, the Chicago PD are really butthurt over the whole thing where, they're just like, oh, they dragged our name through the mud, blah, 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 which they didn't really, but they're just pissed about it because he got off and he didn't go to prison for life. So they released the body cam footage of when they initially walked into his condo. And he's wearing this ridiculous... Well, he's wearing a sweater that's appropriate. Because mind you, remember, it was like sub-zero temperatures.
Right.
But it's very big and, looks like just a comfortable lodge type sweater. And then he's got a
fireside chat.
Right. Well, that's what it looked like. A fireside chat sweater. Just with a kind of big collar. And it looked really comfortable. And then he's got this, rope noose looking thing around his neck. It was, pristine. It looked like it was fresh out of the package. I guarantee you that when the police walked in, if you could see their faces, their eyes probably rolled in the back of their heads because mine did when I saw it. It was a dumpster fire from the beginning. And my point with Kamala Harris is she jumps on that. We find out that it's just a pile of flaming shit, right? And he is who he is. He's a liar. He set this whole thing up, whatever. And she gets asked about it, and she goes to the Jussie who I don't know. Did I tweet that? Did I say I don't know. Blah, blah. She just kind of completely. And there's an easy way to fix it. Just listen, I thought something bad happened. It didn't. It's a shame. He needs to. He's got to pay a price for that. I made a mistake. Move on. Right.
I gave him the benefit of the doubt.
Exactly.
I ended up being wrong.
I got burned.
That's kind of. I don't think I went as far as she did, but I did give him the benefit of the doubt, and then I learned, okay, you don't deserve the benefit of the doubt.
Right. And so, but it's just little things like that where I think that when you're running for president, you can't fall into those traps. And so, especially in this day and age, where and this is where I get frustrated with her, and Cory Booker does it too. Where something happens, a big event, or Donald Trump says something, and there's an immediate response, and I always get concerned about that. Have you thought this through? Is it measured? Are you thinking about how this is going to play? And if you're sitting there saying to me, well, a quick response is better than no response, and you don't want to get beat to the punch. Well, that's exactly why you have to think about this. And Obama wasn't the type who always immediately jumped out and responded. He took his time. He thought about things.
People would challenge you on that about the Cambridge police and the Harvard professor, where he said the Harvard police acted stupidly. Now, I'll be the first to say the Cambridge police did act stupidly. Right. That doesn't mean that the professor did nothing wrong. I got so mad when that was going on because people were like, he said this before. Okay, the police arrested a dude trying to break into his own house. Right. There's ways that could have been avoided. Did he handle it perfectly?
And we all know it wouldn't have happened if he was white. And Obama made a point that I would say 90% of the black people in the country were thinking, right?
Which is, if this guy was white, it wouldn't happen.
If this guy was white, it wouldn't have happened. It was dumb. Nobody was hurt. It wasn't harmed. He was asked a question. He answered it. Right?
Sure. I mean, so... Well, look, I think Obama handled that perfectly because, the Cambridge police acted... Right. Now, and then he had the beer summit. People mocked him for that. I'm like, that was perfect, too. Get two people... If there's anyone who would agree that a black guy and a white guy can sit down, drink, and talk about things that are often uncomfortable, it's us. Right. We drink whiskey, though. We don't fuck around.
Right. We do drink beer. But
we do drink beer as well.
And people jump all over Obama and his responses where they talk about if I had a black son, he would look like Trayvon Martin. Right. Now, what is interesting about that statement is Obama comes out and says, if my son were black, he would look like Trayvon Martin, and the funny thing is the police union jumps all over that and says, you hate police. And the GOP goes, oh, he hates police. And conservative, oh, he hated police because he said that statement and it ruined race relations, blah, blah, blah. Fucking... It had nothing to do with police. The police weren't there. Right. Police never even fucking showed up. It's George Zimmerman.
The most wannabe cop ever.
Right. I mean, it's George Zimmerman. I mean, you're really putting your faith behind George Zimmerman with that whole thing. So I think people just overreacted to Obama's response.
And I didn't mean to derail to do a historical Obama thing. I just wanted to point out that was the mentality.
But that is the mentality. But I think these politicians have to be aware. Right. And so right now, the whole point I was trying to say is, I put a fair number of my eggs in Kamala Harris's basket to this point, but I have issues with her, slipping into pander mode and, this whole quarter. I'm reaching out to, this specific group, and I gotta touch the gays, I gotta touch the Latins, I gotta touch these people, I gotta all this other stuff. Listen, no candidate is going to check all the boxes for all the different groups. Right? That's what everyone in there on the Democratic side, on the left, progressive, whatever the fuck you want to call yourself. There is no one who's going to check every box for you. Right? So what's more important, that your little individual thing, right? Yes, and I'm calling it little, right? Whether it's LGBT, whether it's Black Lives Matter, or however you want to define the issues of black people, whether it's middle class, poor, wealthy,
student loans,
Medicare, all that shit. No one is going to check all your boxes and cover all your issues. So what's more important? Your particular thing gets covered, or you get the guy in the White House out.
Here's what
and that's the thing that someone's as a voter, you're gonna have to decide on, and you need to do it way sooner than later.
What you just described is the cannibalism in Democratic politics that always fucks them up, because Democratic candidates and Democratic voters often tend to be.
That's not true.
I didn't even say what they were going to be.
Well, it's not true. I mean, no, we don't cannibalize. Listen,
let me finish my statement, please.
Clinton, Obama. I mean, Hillary was damn close, and nobody liked her, right? I mean,
what I was about to say was that Democratic voters tend to latch onto issues, and when someone defies them on that issue, they go against them. Hillary's a perfect example, right? Everyone was all Bernie, Bernie, Bernie. That's when recent. They didn't get Bernie. What's that?
That's recent.
Okay, but it's recent and it's relevant. Because
it happened with Hillary.
Right. But all right, again, my point is that when Democratic voters get spurned over their issue, they tend to revolt. When Republican voters get spurned on an issue, they tend to ignore it.
Okay. You're saying tend to. I think this is what recent relevant history. I mean,
I don't think it is. Yes, what you're describing, what I talked about is recent.
Bill Clinton, you want to talk about somebody being divisive? I mean, Bill Clinton, let's not act like
you want to talk about somebody who pandered?
Yeah,
no one pandered better than Bill Clinton. I loved Bill Clinton back in the day.
He pandered like a motherfucker, but I mean, he was he was also finger banging everybody walking down the street. We all knew it, right?
He was cigar banging, and you should respect that as a cigar.
He didn't start the cigar banging until he got into the White House.
We do not know that.
We do.
No, we don't. We don't know.
Well, we know he was cigar banging in the White House.
What I love watching is
the point. The point is, I mean, I think this whole idea of the Democrats are cannibals, right? Like, I think
they're not.
Both political parties are cannibalistic when they are behind the 8 ball. Okay? I think they both are like that when they're behind the 8 ball, right? This fractured Democratic Party that you're seeing right now, I think, is new because you have the element of the LGBTQ community really coming out in full force, stronger in the last 5 years than they have ever. Sure. Right? I think the black community has been what it has been since we've been here, right? We're constantly fighting for equality, civil rights, and that whole mantra. That's standard.
That movement has evolved dramatically.
The movement has evolved, but I think that the black community is always going to be targeted. The LGBT community is new in terms of the potential voting
being
bloc,
front and center,
right? I mean, in terms of being like right in the mix of voters that needed to be directly courted to,
right?
And then you have this. The Bernie people, right, who just want free everything, right? Healthcare, education, all free. How you going to pay for it? Doesn't fucking matter. We just want it. We're going to do it. Bernie, how you going to pay for it? I'm going to pay for it. How? By paying for it. How? That way.
Okay,
cool. Well, tax the 1%. Okay, fine. Right. But that whole movement, the Bernie movement, is also new, right? Yeah. And so, now, what everyone has to understand, your thing is great, but it's not the most important thing, right? None of our things are the most important thing. The most important thing is removing the guy in the White House, right? So you're gonna have to put your dick away, swallow your fucking pride, and figure out who is the best, who can kind of carry a little bit of water for each of these things, but can weather the storm of the orange hurricane that's in the White House right now.
And I think the ultimate highlight of that is Pete Buttigieg, who is gay. And from my gay friends that I talked to about this, some of them are not a big fan of the guy because they think he's a bit of a panderer and they don't think he's
not gay enough.
No one said that.
But that's the vibe.
No,
right?
I think it might. Yeah,
just saying.
No one has said that to me.
But it's just like a black can. It's like, is Kamala Harris
Kamala Harris black enough?
Is Kamala Harris black enough?
Okay.
Is Cory Booker black enough? These are legitimate conversations. Let's just talk in normal terms.
But speaking about he's not electrifying LGBTQ voters from my conversations with them, and again that's somewhat anecdotal. But he's also facing a lot of problems back at home in South Bend.
Yeah.
Because he's the mayor of a city, and they've had some really ugly interactions between the police and the black community in South Bend. Yep. And the most recent one, a man named Eric Logan is shot and killed. The officer that shot and killed him turned off his body cam before the shooting. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly the details of when it got turned off, but we did not see a thing. There have been multiple reports that the officer had a record of being racist and aggressive.
Yes, and the officer said that Logan had a knife, and that I haven't seen anywhere where that's been verified.
And if you can't plant a fucking knife,
well,
I'm sorry.
I shot him.
What I just said was really shitty, but also kind of real.
Well, we saw a cop drop a taser on a guy that
next to a dead guy that he had just shot minutes before, then claim he grabbed my taser.
So, I think. Buttigieg does have that issue with race in the city, and he's getting a lot of credit from the debate last night. He was asked about it. What have you done to deal with, representation on the police, black representation on your police force in your city? And he says, that's on me. I just didn't do it. He's getting a lot of credit for that answer, and I think it's bullshit.
Okay, I was going to say, I can't imagine you're cool with that.
And a lot of people,
historically, based on what he's done, it's bullshit. Like, his words do not back up the history from what I know. He fired the former police commissioner of South Bend, and then I think the union stood up for him, and they ended up just demoting him. But the commissioner he fired and then ultimately got his job back at a lower level was black, and apparently had basically accessed documents that showed lots of historically awful things related to race in South Bend policing. And getting fired for that is pretty fucked up.
Yes.
Now, I don't know the details deeply enough to say Pete Buttigieg completely fucked it up, but it sounds real bad to me from what I know. And I know my whole show has been, I'm drinking whiskey and I don't know shit. But so I'm the opposite of Peter Dinklage. He drinks and he knows things. I drink and I don't know things. But anyway, that's bad.
Yeah, that is bad, right? Like, so again, going back to why I was frustrated with his answer and even more frustrated with the level of credit that he's getting from national media pundits is he didn't give an answer. All he said was, I messed up. That's on me. I own it. He gets a round of applause and everyone's just like, that's so humble. It's just so refreshing to get, like, going into my kind of Julie Mason voice, but it's, it's frustrating because he didn't answer. He didn't own it. He didn't answer for that particular thing that you're talking about. I wish that Kamala Harris would have gone in on him on that because I think that she could have eviscerated him on that particular issue. And like
wasn't she night 2 though? He was night 1, right?
No, Pete Buttigieg was last night.
Okay. Shows you I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, and I really think she could have gone in on him on that and really kind of expose him. Like, not only did you not just get it done, it's not like you came up with all these ideas and all these proposals and you really pushed them through and they just didn't work. No, you really kind of didn't do a lot. And what you did do seemed like it was more of the opposite of helping the situation than actually helping it. And so I'm not a fan of Buttigieg. I think that, one, he's too green, right? Like, you're the mayor of a small town, and now you're going to be the leader of the free world. Not completely comfortable with that. And I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with him on race relations, right? Like, he says all the right things, but like, you have the opportunity to do it on a small scale and say, look, this is how I would resolve these issues in bigger places and bigger, overall as a country. And he hasn't done it, right? And so I don't have an issue with him being gay. Like, that's the other thing that is just very prevalent across the board. If you're not a traditional white male, right, like a straight white male, and you criticize one of these other candidates that's a Pete Buttigieg or a Kamala Harris or an Elizabeth Warren, then it's because...
Are you black-explaining me?
it's because you hate black people, right, if it's Kamala Harris or Cory Booker, or you hate gays if it's Pete Buttigieg, or you hate women... if it's an Elizabeth Warren, right? And that's not the case. And we have to be able to criticize these people on their merits. We have to be able to analyze what they're putting forth in terms of policy and explanations for past behavior without it being deemed as some sort of ism, right? Sure. Racism, sexism, homophobia.
I mean, you fuck with me on this all the time, right? I'll say something about a black person that is clearly true, and you'll take a jab at me. And I know you're fucking around with me because we're.
I don't do that with you often.
Not often, but you enjoy it when you do. But no, it's not. I mean, it's not your go-to.
Right.
But you like fucking with me when you can.
Right.
Because
that's between me and you. But
right.
I mean, but on a grander scale, There are, media people who criticize Pete Buttigieg on that answer that he gave, and those people were attacked like, oh, well, you must hate gay people because why aren't you giving Pete Buttigieg a chance? And it's just like, listen, I'm giving him a chance, but on this particular issue, he fucking sucks.
With Pete Buttigieg and frankly with Tulsi Gabbard, I think that they are both stars on the rise, right? They're making a name for themselves. They were 2 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago, I didn't know who either of them were. And either did you, I'm guessing. And now their names, and like you said, they're 38, 37 years old respectively.
What's funny is, being a diehard college football fan, I'm familiar with Pete Buttigieg just because...
He was the mayor of South Bend?
Mayor of South Bend, home of Notre Dame, right? I mean, so there are certain... It's funny... when you listen to some of these shows and no one knows where South Bend, Indiana is. And I'm like, I know exactly where it is. I've been there 10 times in my life.
Okay.
Obviously.
I've been there
to Notre Dame games and to be recruited by Notre Dame and then have my heart ripped out by fucking Bob Davie. He'd go fuck himself.
And here comes
You know what? Why don't we just talk about my high school football career?
Let's talk about your high school
Let's
football
talk about
career.
my high school football career and
the fact
where
that you broke Ed O'Neill's record is fantastic.
No, not even that. I just want to talk about how I hate Bob Davie.
No,
and now Notre Dame.
Oddly, I don't think our audience really cares. I've heard the story. I respect her.
Like, here's the thing: if Lou Holtz
are we going to do this? Are we going to do this?
If Lou
are we going to do this?
Holtz stays, I like all my problems are solved. I go to Notre Dame happy. I still don't have to watch Rudy, and it's all good.
You're wrong. You have to watch Rudy if you go to Notre Dame. I think it's a prerequisite.
Hate that movie so
me too. We talked about
I
this.
think I hate it even more now, obviously because of my being spurned by them. But fuck.
All right, we're derailing, my brother. All right. So that was the last thing I really wanted to hit on politics.
So let me wrap that up.
All right.
Kamala Harris eviscerates Joe Biden, by the way.
Right. I've heard multiple people say that, yes.
I mean, she killmongered him Black Panther style, right?
Like she comes to the waterfall, like,
right, like,
see ya.
Is this your king? Right? Is this your king? Throws him over the waterfall. Now, he's not dead.
Right.
Right? But you don't
think the other tribe is going to rescue him and bring him back and nurse him back?
I don't think Joe has a
triumphant win the rematch.
Right? I mean, I think Joe Biden is... Listen, I've never been a fan of Joe Biden. I didn't like Joe Biden as...
I have been a fan of Joe Biden.
I have not been a fan of Joe Biden. I didn't like him as President Obama's VP. I felt like he had these weak spots. No one called him on it. And he was allowed to skate. And he was propped up by Obama. Obama was just like, listen, we ain't going to talk about that past shit. I'm going to need you to handle X, Y, Z. Do it with a lot of energy and a lot of pep. Be Uncle Joe. They'll make some great memes about us and you'll go out a legend, period. And had Joe just done that, I think things would have been fine. But this whole thing where he's running for president now, and I think that's why Obama never came out and said, yeah, this is a great idea, because I think Obama knew, right? But Obama pulled him in as a guy to pull in to make people comfortable with a black president, right? Like you needed that guy. And that's why he did it. And I was never comfortable with him. I didn't like him. I remember back in 2000, it was right when I moved back, right? Like, so
when he ran against Obama in 2008.
Right. Like, so it was right when I moved back. I had left the PD's office in Cook County, had come back. I'm sitting at dinner with a bunch of people at a Thai restaurant over in Tremont. And everyone was so excited that Obama had picked Biden as his VP. And I said, man, I don't like it, right? I don't know if it'll affect the polls, but I just don't like Joe Biden. And they said, why? And I said, man, like, the guy's record is not the best and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, well, is that true? And I'm like, yeah, like, these are things that happened in the past that are documented, right? The guy's been around politics for 40 fucking years.
I was a fan of Joe Biden when he ran for president in 1988.
Okay, well, that's your fault.
Well, I was 17, but
right.
You were 7.
But I mean, to finish my point, I've never been a fan of Joe Biden. So I never saw him as a viable candidate. I haven't. I realized why he was the front runner. I acknowledge that he's the front runner, but it didn't make sense to me that he was the front runner, right? Like I get it. I get why people were placing him up there and blah, 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 and all that. Well, he's the guy who could be Trump. Yeah, maybe you're saying that now, right? But now you put him on the debate stage and Kamala Harris is just like, I'm going for the throat. She's like, right. Kamala Harris is like, I'm not being anybody's VP. I don't give a fuck about Joe Biden. And so he's the first one I'm going to take down. So she basically brought out the machete and said goodbye. And now, will he come back? He'll bounce back. He'll get like, he didn't drop that far, right? Like him and Bernie didn't drop that far. Her star rose. Elizabeth Warren is still up there. I think relatively Biden's still leading. I think Bernie's still second. Elizabeth Warren is closing in on Bernie. I think Kamala Harris has jumped way up. And I think Cory Booker has jumped up, and Julian Castro and everyone else is going to be languishing at 1% to 2% in terms of polling and voter recognition and all that other stuff. The rest of those, everyone that I just mentioned, their numbers are going to get boosted. And so those are going to be, that's kind of your dog fight for, who's really going to be your on the stage for the debates that matter and the caucus and the primary votes in 2020, right? And so with Biden, he didn't look good last night. He looked slow on the trigger.
That's what I heard.
He was cutting himself off, right? Like he's like, I don't know how to end this, so I'm just going to blame it on I'm out of time or I ran over my time.
So he's basically like a bad comic.
Yeah,
that's my time, folks. I'm out of here.
That's literally what it was like. I mean, and he did not look good. When he was pressed, you could tell he was shook and he was trying to look firm and be firm, and he had certain talking points, and just stick to the talking points, Joe. Stick to the talking points. But, you know, Kamala Harris, and this is why I like her in this position, because she is a prosecutor. She knows how to ask questions that are going to put you in a situation where either you answer them exactly with pinpoint precision, or you tongue tie yourself and you hang yourself with your own noose. And Joe Biden, he had an actual better answer than he gave on the busing, but he couldn't do it because the way she asked the question, under the pressure, under the lights, he tripped and he fell and he couldn't recover from it, right? And that's what a good prosecutor does to you, right? Like they do it all the time, and that's what she did to him. And if you think that she's not going to go through and systematically do that to each and one of these candidates. And I said she could have done it to Pete Buttigieg last night, but she didn't. It's coming, right? It's coming. And she's going to go down the line and do that. Now, will she ultimately end up with the nomination? I don't know. And the reality is she's a strong black woman. She's half Jamaican, half Indian. She's attractive and she comes with fire and fury, but I don't know if people will get behind her just because I'm not 100% sure. Listen, I'm not 100% sure the country is ready for it, right? I mean, I think we are.
Black woman as
just a strong black woman. I'm just not 100% sure this country is ready for it, right? Like they're still pissed about Obama being president, right? And they have nothing to be pissed about other than the fact that just, you know.
Well, I mean,
I'm not sure.
I need to learn more about her.
And I know what I need to know about her. I did a deep dive on her, and I'm trying to figure out how to balance, because when she's doing, like, Kamala Harris to me reminds me of a late 90s, early 2000s, like University of Miami football player, like an Ed Reed, Ray Lewis. And what I mean by that is when you hear black athletes talk about other really good black athletes, like, yo, he got the dog in him. He is a dog, right? And Kamala Harris, her record, everything she does, just the way she carries herself, you look at her and say, she is a fucking dog, right? I will run in her pack any day of the week. Except for now in this situation, right? And I've seen her in Senate hearings, and she lambastes everyone, and she just does, like, as an attorney, you're just like, yes, chop them up, chop them up, chop them up. I love it. But then she has those moments where she completely just derails and just kind of goes, super weird pander mode, and it gets frustrating. But that being said, you still know she's a dog. You still know that she's top of her class and everything else. So I think she's the person that I'm running with. And I just need her to kind of clean up some of the...
But the truth is, Steve, you will analyze her on that level much more intently than most people will. So the pandering stuff that bothers you probably helps her in the greater polls.
And you might be right. You might be dead right?
I mean, it's just, it's just like me, where I'll overthink things, and it's like, okay, at the end of the day, whether it's Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, or whatever, I'm going to come around. And you probably will too. But with Kamala, you're holding her to a higher standard because she's your front runner right now, and you want her to be what you want out of a candidate.
Right.
And she might ultimately be that, but she doesn't need to win just you. She needs to win mass appeal.
Right. And I don't think I fit a normal demographic. So there's that.
Neither of us do, for sure.
Right. And I do want to say one more thing about the debates, and they're dominating this show, but it is what it is.
It's funny because I wanted to avoid this so much.
I know.
But here we go.
But
you know what?
Here's the thing. So can we talk Marianne Williamson?
Please do, because I know nothing about her.
All right. So Marianne Williamson she's an author, and she has a line of books that are very popular amongst the Oprah crowd.
Okay.
Very popular amongst women and, I guess men too. But most I've heard a ton of women talk about her, a few men, and a lot of it has to do with her books. Some of them are self-help. I think it not necessarily self-help, but kind of like wellness and, spirituality and
eat, love, pray kind of shit.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Not my speed. But last night, man,
I like where this is going.
Like, it felt like I was watching Veep.
Oh, I really like where this is going.
And I even tweeted out, I'm like, can someone explain to me this new character on Veep? I just haven't seen her before. I don't get it. Wait, no, this is real. This is actual.
So it's not The Bachelor and it's not Veep.
It's not Veep. It's not The Bachelor. This is fucking real. So, like, she in her whole, I guess her candidacy is based on she's going to solve all our problems with love. Right? Love and what just positive energy.
Needs now.
Yeah. And which is,
that's the most singing I've ever done on our show, by the way.
Right. And so.
And more than anybody wants.
They ask a question at the end of the night. What's the first thing you're going to do if you win the presidency? Right?
Right.
And her response is, the first thing I'm going to do is call New Zealand and tell their leader that, you're not the best show in town. We're the best show in town. New Zealand's not the best place to live because they claim that they want to be the best place to live. And I'm going to tell them that the United States is the best place to live. And New Zealand, you got another thing coming if you think you're going to beat us, right? Okay. Like, that's her statement.
I did not know that. And I will say, if you are a huge fan of Sauvignon Blanc, a great New Zealand is the best.
Right. And so
I'm that regard.
So I'm like,
speaking of Sauvignon Blanc, she wins.
So I'm like, your first thing in office is to declare war with New Zealand? Like, I
saw you tweeted that, and I was like, all right.
You have to, like, it was weird. And listen, I am not doing her segment justice. I should have grabbed the soundbite, but it was just like, and then she went into this weird sort of like when white girls try to talk like black girls, she did that sort of thing, and it was like, it just came off weird.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did. She just didn't snap, but there was a little bit of a head jive. And the cadence changed. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm attracted to you right now or what, but this is weird. It was just a bizarre sort of, it was a bizarre sort of thing. Like the all of it. I mean, the whole debate, even, Eric Swalwell, we didn't talk a lot about him. I can't stand him, right? He's out of California. He's like Nancy Pelosi's fucking whipping boy. He's got just a hard-on for taking people's guns. He's the guy who said that, worst case scenario, he's the guy who said, yeah, well, you've got AR-15s, well, we've got nukes. He's
gotta go away.
Right. He wants to take everybody's guns and there's no guns and that'll solve all the world's problems. And he's that guy, right? And so that alone has me saying, first of all, I'm probably going to go buy an AR-10 or AR-15 pistol, just because I saw a really good deal on one the other day. $375. You got to put it together yourself, but that's not bad.
If I wanted one, I'd buy one, but I don't.
Right, but I mean, $375. You put it together, that comes with the upper and the lower.
Depending on
Castellona.
And there's so much variety and quality and things like that.
Agreed.
There's garbage out there.
I'm just saying, not bad for just
anyway. Yes.
So,
derailing.
But Eric Swalwell, gotta go. Can't stand him. But he did say something at the end of the night where basically he's like, listen, Joe Biden, pass the torch, right? Like, you're too old, pass the torch. And, Joe Biden kind of is like, you will take it from my cold, dead hands, right? And Kamala Harris is kind of like, you know what, fine. I'll settle it for you. I'll take it, right? And then, quiet, the crowd goes silent. And, again, she kind of just positions herself as the queen bee, which, again, I'm a fan of hers.
Right.
I really am. There's just certain things about her game that I don't like, but I have to get over. And I hope that she can win enough people where she just kind of pushes everybody else out of the way. Bill de Blasio. Can we talk about him for a second?
We can.
Briefly. I'm sorry.
Let me say my piece about him. He announced he was running the day I showed up in Western New York for that camping trip where I fell and fucked up my elbow and all that fun stuff, which wasn't on the show, but whatever. And so I'm in Western New York in a very conservative crowd. And when they told me that, the candidate number was up 23, I'm like, who announced? And one of the guys there, who is a man I fucking respect and admire, but politically I'm very different than, Bill de Blasio, a guy that's hated his own fucking state. And he is. He is not a likable human being.
He's not.
He's kind of a dipshit, too.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
call me out on name calling because you've been doing a lot tonight. But he's a dipshit. I'm not a Bill de Blasio fan.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think the dude's a fucking clown. His whole thing, I'm raising a black son, so I have all these concerns. Like, while you're standing next to fucking grown-ass adult black man who grew up in fucking New York, New Jersey. Like Newark, sorry. But the funny thing about him... You spent a lot
of time in Newark to go, that's something.
I've spent
there plenty of time
in Newark.
Me too.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Awful place.
Just bad. It smells awful.
When you're landing in that airport, it stinks when you get off.
Oh my God. It smells... the smell in Newark, New Jersey, I feel like when you land in and they talk about the smell because it's just so much nature, rhino shit and giraffe shit and animals and fucking monkeys and all that shit. Like, I feel like I can adapt to that smell because it's nature. The smell of Newark, New Jersey is just garbage.
Pure chemical.
Just pure. It is. It's like there's chemicals that they're pouring on top of garbage. Right, and then it's just like whatever that...
Do you know who the Toxic Avenger is?
I do know Toxic Avenger. That movie terrified me.
New Jersey's first superhero.
Yeah, that movie fucking terrified me when I was a kid.
That happened in Newark.
I know. But yeah, oh my God, I hate Newark. Anyway, but I mean, to talk about your black son in front of fucking Cory Booker who grew up in Newark, like, come on, man, get the fuck out of here. And so, talking about a guy being completely out of touch, de Blasio... in Miami, which is key.
Yes.
After the debates, has this like fucking rally, right? Like Trump style. And it's filled with people from Miami. What do we know about Miami?
Very heavily Cuban.
Very heavily Cuban. A lot of people who were fleeing Castro and Che Guevara and everything that was happening there transplanted to Miami, right? A guy that you hate, Dan Le Batard, he's Cuban. His family is from Cuba. They left because of Castro and Che Guevara and everything that happened there. So de Blasio, in front of all these fucking people, right, that are of Cuban descent,
right,
gets on stage, says a bunch of rambling bullshit, and then throws out a Viva la Revolucion, which is from...
Long live the revolution, right?
Right, which was made famous and coined by Che Guevara. Number of Cuban people in that were in attendance of that stood up, turned around, walked out.
That is an amazing thing to accomplish. To get people who came to your rally to
support
you, and literally they don't even protest.
It's literally like
fuck off.
And again, and maybe I should just go into running campaigns, right? Because I feel like there's just no way that there's anyone with any, like, listen, Bill, we're in Miami. There's one thing you can't say here, okay? It's this. So as long as you don't say this, you can probably whip your dick out on stage and piss on someone. Get you a better result than if you say these words.
Here's the problem. That's how you would run a campaign, and then Bill de Blasio would whip out his dick and piss on someone and go, "That's what you told me to do."
God damn it! You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong. But I mean that just in kind of Bill de Blasio, I almost kind of sums up this whole process to this point.
I agree, but I think Bill de Blasio's biggest problem is,
first of all, you're the fucking mayor of New York City. Listen. President of the United States, absolute, yes, big, most power, blah, 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 blah. You're the mayor of New York fucking city. I would say, just fucking take it, bro.
Well, I mean, there used to be a joke that the three toughest jobs in the world are President of the United States, Mayor of New York, and head coach of Notre Dame football. And the joke was that the only reason that Notre Dame wasn't ahead of the mayor is because the mayor of New York has to go into Queens.
Right.
So that's been, I remember that joke from like my college days.
Which,
having said that,
Queens is a little different now.
Now it's a very different. So is Brooklyn. So is the Bronx. But but being a mayor of New York is, we were talking about Pete Buttigieg earlier. He's a mayor of South Bend, Indiana. Not nearly as impressive. You can manage with the mess that New York City typically is, and I don't mean mess in a bad way.
Have we ever had an NYC mayor as president? I feel like the answer is no, right?
I cannot think of one. Maybe in the 1800s. Giuliani certainly tried.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
God, that is
it makes de Blasio look kind of classy.
Right.
But no, I don't know if we ever have. I don't
think we have. I'm going through my number of my presidents.
I can eliminate a whole bunch just off the top of my head. Like they were not mayor of New York, so like maybe Chester A. Arthur, the 21st president, may have been. I don't know.
Made famous through Die Hard 3. By the way.
The one with Samuel Jackson.
Yes.
Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yes.
Not even. Yeah. The fact that you caught that, fuck. The only reason I know he was the 21st president is because of Die Hard 3. I get my history from Bruce Willis and Samuel Jackson, and I stand by that.
I don't listen. That's the only reason I know it.
I know. Well, so you call me out on it.
I'm not. I wasn't even calling you out.
No, you were not. You're pointing it out. Yes. And I'm not even apologizing. I'm like, I'm never doing this. Good, actually, a pretty good Die Hard movie.
It was great.
They went up and down after that, right? The Live Free or Die Hard was unwatchable.
The first three were great. After that, they're just. I watched them.
They're varying degrees of bad.
The one Live Free or Die Hard wasn't completely
He takes out an F-16 with a fucking semi-truck jumping a bridge.
Okay, that part, that particular part, everything leading up to it. I love Timothy Olyphant of Deadwood, of Justified, of
so many, Scream 2.
I love Timothy Olyphant, so I get and he was good.
He was good, yeah.
He was good in the movie.
He's a great bad guy and a great good guy.
Right, he is a great good guy. He's very
a great
relatable
guy too.
He also he is the most pigeon-toed, knock-kneed motherfucker I've ever seen in my life. Watching Justified, him in those cowboy boots, I'm like, you're gonna die. You're just gonna trip over.
You just brought up Deadwood
and die. Yeah,
Deadwood had a movie on HBO that came out. Did you watch it?
Did
you watch it? It came out May 31st.
Fuck, I didn't see the movie, but I did watch the series.
I love the series.
Deadwood was great. It was too short.
You know what? It was weird though, because it was great or not, right?
Well, it was
ended on a whimper.
So it was one of your early HBO series. It was short.
2003 or 4, I think.
Somewhere around it was early 2000s. I was in college. But it was... I think it was only a couple seasons.
3.
And so it was... Basically, every other episode was good.
Yeah.
Right? It was...
And it always finished strong and ended strong.
Yes.
And that was amazing about it.
But the finale, you're just like... Ugh.
Yawn.
Right.
And it's Steve, one of those I'm going to save you 2 hours. Movie, kind of a yawn.
No.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, it kind of is. I saved it on DVR.
I was working at HBO.
I don't know. It was basically like a reunion of characters you like. So they brought back everyone from General Fields to Charlie Utter plays a big role in it, and of course George Hurst in the movie is a senator now, which historically is accurate. But it kind of goes out on a whimper. It kind of, there's a few moments, and then...
Well, let me watch it.
Watch it, judge it yourself, and we're boring the shit out of people.
All right, sorry. Anyway.
All right, 2 stories we really want to touch on, because you sent me a story about a woman in Alabama who was shot in the stomach after starting an altercation, and the fetus, she was pregnant, the fetus dies, and in Alabama, she is being charged with manslaughter.
Yeah, and it's so the fucked up part about this is...
The fucked up part?
It's all fucked up, but... So, Alabama's a stand your ground state. And they're saying that she started the fight. Now, mind you, she's pregnant and unarmed. But they're saying she started the fight and kept the fight going. So, the person was justified in shooting her in the stomach 5 times. Okay?
Right.
She was shot 5 times in the stomach. She is pregnant and unarmed. Now, listen. Not to make light of this, but if you've ever dealt with a pregnant woman, right? It's Alabama. It's hot, mind you. So
I'm crabby about my studio tonight.
I mean, so if you've ever dealt with a pregnant woman who's hot, in any term of her pregnancy, not the most rational, right? And so the idea that someone would be justified in shooting a pregnant woman an unarmed pregnant woman 5 times, and that person is able to walk, and then she is charged with manslaughter for the death of her fetus. Listen, I'm not saying the death of the fetus should go, like no one should be responsible for it. The person responsible is the person who pulled the goddamn gun, right? And shot her 5 times in the fucking stomach. Right? Like, listen, you have an unarmed pregnant woman. I don't care how irrational she's being. Right? Like, I mean, listen, once she has another life in her body, I'm sorry, unless she's got a fucking axe and she's trying to cut your head off, then you have to figure out every which way to get her to calm the fuck down without fucking shooting her. Period.
Agreed. But that's not the most egregious part. That's why I say the fucked up thing is not, because the fact that the state of Alabama is charging the woman who got shot with the death of her child as if it's like a...
Well, we're saying the same thing.
Okay, we're agreeing, yes. Yeah. That is so insane.
Yeah. I mean, and what it is, I mean, it's an it's an extension of criminalizing abortion.
Right.
It's the extension of criminalizing being lower income black woman and combining those things and just like, well, I mean, you're a crazy black woman who's pregnant and you put your baby in harm's way. This is 100% your fault and you need to go to jail. Right? I mean, because you aborted your baby illegally for being a crazy black woman, you go to jail. That is literally their thinking and their process on this. I don't care what they say. None of their arguments make any sense. This is an abomination to the law. It's an abomination to civil rights. And my fear is nothing will be done, and this woman will ultimately end up going to jail.
If that happens,
and it's disgusting.
I would actually consider flying to Alabama and protesting if that happened.
Fuck protesting, man. I don't know what you. I
don't want to say that shit.
Not burn anything down, but I mean, screw protesting. I mean, I want to sit face to face with the person who says, "Yep, I charged her."
And I want to prosecute this case.
Right. And listen, I'm not taking any bullshit. I want you to tell me the reason why you did it. And I will not rest until you admit that you did it because she was black and you did it because you're a fucking religious zealot.
Let's put the Whiskey Congress challenge out there. We will find, if this gets past the point where she is actually prosecuted, or gets to the point where she's actually prosecuted, let's find who did this. We'll call their office. They'll blow us off. It won't actually happen, but let's do it. Let's get aggressive.
Why not?
They're in small town Alabama.
Listen, I'm all for it.
This will be fun. I mean that sounds awful, but
no, it's not
anyone who would stand behind that prosecution needs to go to jail themselves, in my opinion. That's fucking revolting.
And at minimum, and part of me says, "Fuck, let's just call now." Not right now at the moment.
All right, but I mean, Monday, I'll start doing some research. I'll try to find out. I've got some time Monday morning.
Yeah, and I mean, let's dig in. Fuck it, let's dig in and make some phone calls and just like, listen, I want you to explain it to me.
Yeah.
Right? And listen, we don't live in Alabama, so they can be like, listen, I don't have to explain shit to you. But knowing
this is our social media.
Well, it's not even about that. Knowing racist Southerners, man, they love them some men, right? And so you give them, and you say you're going to give them a platform to talk about them and why they're doing what they're doing.
Maybe that's the avenue to take.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's talk to not the prosecutor, because they'll be smart enough to keep their mouth shut.
Yes.
Let's talk to a mayor of that town or a deputy mayor of that town.
Give you a platform.
Here's your platform
to talk about and
explain why you're so powerfully passionate about the sanctity of life. And by the way, this is what always happens, right? The greater tragedy is this woman got shot and her baby died.
She lost her baby.
And she's got to deal with that, which I cannot imagine. And let's be real. You and I avoid the abortion issue on our show because neither of us are ever going to have an abortion.
Never going to have a baby and never going to have an abortion because we're both men and we don't have a uterus.
And I do have very strong opinions on it that I spare from the show because my strong opinion will offend almost everyone. In the sense that pro-lifers get mad at me and pro-choicers get mad at me. But This is not that. This is you're charging a woman with a felony for having the nerve to get shot.
How dare you get shot?
How dare you get shot?
How dare you don't? And listen, I mean, because the whole standard ground thing. Listen, even if this woman turns and walks away, what if this guy I don't even know who shot her. The person shoots her in the back. Right? I mean, it's so egregious.
Stand your ground is one thing. You got yelled at by an angry pregnant woman.
And it's the problem with stand your ground, right? This is where it raised so many issues with Trayvon Martin.
Sure.
Right? I mean, George Zimmerman has a gun. Trayvon Martin is a 13, 14-year-old kid.
17.
Or whatever he was. I'm sorry. I'm switching up him and Tamir Rice.
Yeah, I know.
But okay, 17-year-old kid, no gun, George Zimmerman, grown-ass man. Right?
But he was getting the shit beat out of him. We've had this argument aggressively before.
He was getting the shit beat out of him
because he was a fat slob.
Because he put himself in that position.
True, no doubt.
Right? It's literally like you walking up to me and like slapping me and saying, "You're wrong," and it's just like, "Bitch, you just slapped me. Now you're about to get your ass kicked." And it's like, "Well, I have to defend myself."
He was kicking the shit out of me.
He was kicking my ass. I was losing a fight.
Now, in fairness, if you were wailing on me and I shot you, I think a jury wins. I win that jury because you're a large man.
Well,
he was losing to a 17-year-old.
There's no reason you should. I mean, pin your arms down and just headbutt you until you black out.
I can shoot a gun with my toes, bitch.
Like you can't. I've seen your feet.
Then clearly you haven't, because my toes are freaky enough that I actually probably could.
But you got plantar fasciitis.
My toes,
shins would cramp up.
My toes are freakishly long. You've never seen my feet. All right, one more story.
We're going to put this to the test?
Fine. You put your chest in front of my foot with a gun in it, I can shoot you twice. Why the fuck are we doing this? This is what goes wrong when good whiskey and fun times happen. Anyway.
We haven't even drank that much.
No, we actually have been fairly responsible.
It's too hot in here.
It is too fucking hot in here. Oh, it's cooling down a bit.
Get your air conditioning fixed.
I'm going to.
Asshole.
Fuck you. All right. We do this deliberately. We choose to do this. All right.
You choose to do it with me. I don't know why.
You're not being forced to be here.
No.
You chose to come here.
I'm enjoying it.
I'm enjoying it too.
You're the one taking the abuse here.
I'm rope-a-doping you. I'm laying on the ropes. Here comes a knockout. All right. No, there's not.
I think you got a little masochist in you.
You can believe that if you'd like. I can take it. Anyway, last story. You sent this to me. You can barely pour a bottle of whiskey, though.
Because I almost said 50 Shades of Grey, but that's
okay.
That's
don't
wrong.
Go completely weird on us.
That's wrong.
And
right.
You're hitting your mic way too much.
Shut up.
No, stop hitting your fucking mic. Anyway, California is making a
California love.
I can get involved in this.
All right, anyway.
Yes. See, I got way too involved in that quickly, didn't I? I almost wanted to say the wrong name. I was going, that's a great song by Snoop Dogg, just to watch you blow your stack, but I know who it is. It's not.
California?
Tupac, yes. So tell the story, because you sent me the story. California schools are looking to...
This is what we're doing. So the state of California has a bill on the table that will allow college athletes to earn money for their likeness. And the NCAA, Mark Emmert, wrote them a letter and was just like, listen, if you do this, if you pass this, then your schools will no longer be eligible for NCAA championships. And I say, dear California, pass that shit. And then I say every fucking state in the union pass the exact same bill and let's just fucking bury the NCAA.
It doesn't have to be it has to be California, Pennsylvania, Texas, Ohio, Texas. That's
Florida.
enough. That's enough. Florida, and then Alabama will still win everything. Alabama will never pass that.
Alabama will never pass it.
And they'll still win in football.
Well, if you tell Nick Saban, if you can convince Nick Saban, Alabama will pass it. Right? And you may be able to.
But why would they? Why would they?
Here's the deal. Let me explain why this matters. I have long contended the NCAA should never pay players.
You have.
Or the schools.
And you and I have disagreed.
And my reason for this is if you allow the NCAA or the schools to pay the players, one, I don't think that the money divvies up the way people think it does. How do you how do you explain paying a fucking female field hockey player the same thing that you're paying an Ohio State football player because of revenue generate? Like, just if we're talking about economics and market value, and demand, and also if it's coming from the schools and it's through the NCAA, you allow the NCAA to have more power and control, and that is not what we want. We all agree that the NCAA is one of the most corrupt institutions in the fucking world. And so if you allow them to control the money that goes to the players, what do you think happens to the college and the student athletes? They're going to, then
University of Toledo gets fucked and Alabama has millionaires.
Exactly. So what happens, and I've always said, let the free market be the free market. Allow these kids, don't pay them through the schools and the NCAA. Not because I don't want the kids to get paid, but I don't want those institutions having control over the kids. So what you do is you allow the kids to make money off their likeness. If me, Steve, wants, if I want to pay, like me, as a guy, let's say I own a car dealership, and I go to Ohio State and I say, hey, top-rated quarterback, come to my car dealership, promote the new Corvette for 4 hours, and I will give you $40,000, $10,000 an hour. All you have to do is stand there and look cool and sign autographs and spit on my wife's tits. You do that, and I will give you $40,000.
Why do you have to always go there? Why?
Because it's fun, and I'm into that. Whatever.
Okay.
Back up off me, P. So, but if that's what I want to do with my fucking money, then there's no reason that kid shouldn't be able to accept that fucking money. Right? Period.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I'm going to school for an academic scholarship and I'm getting everything fucking paid for, right? And I go there and I'm being a really good student and whatever, and let's just say I'm a really attractive guy, right? And some woman says, "Hey, I want you to come with me and be my date to this ball. I'm going to pay for you to wear a tuxedo.
Or I want you to model for..."
No, just listen to the story. I want you to wear a tuxedo, and I want you to be my arm candy for the night, and drive me around, and take pictures with me, and I'll pay you $40,000. Then that academic kid can do that all he wants, and no one gives a shit. Right? So what the fuck is the difference? Let the free market be the free market. And yeah, the kids at the big schools... at the Power 5, yeah, they're going to make more money. But at the same time, all of a sudden, for that kid who's getting tempted by Ohio State and Florida State and Miami and Oklahoma, but he's from Patterson, New Jersey, and Rutgers, and some alumni from Rutgers is just like, hey, if you just stay home, you can come to my company. I run ZipRecruiter, and all you got to do is stand there and take pictures with the employees. I'll pay you $70,000 a year just for you to stay home and play ball for Rutgers. I'm fine with it. A lot of people say it's not fair and it's blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean, have the kids report the money that they make.
Well, the report to the IRS.
Right, yeah. I mean,
NCAA,
right.
The IRS is
and
going to get their piece.
So, I mean, and if you're going to do this, then I would say make sure that these kids, like instead of having NCAA people running around checking that these kids aren't getting free cookies at the bakery, have someone make sure that they're doing their taxes right. Right? Like, that's a better expense of their money to make sure that these kids don't end up getting fucked and going to IRS jail.
You and I have argued aggressively over the NCAA, but we do agree that it is a very self-serving, corrupt organization.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, if you look at the money that they
make... The Newark Mafia and the NCAA would be offended by being compared to one another.
Yes. But yet, you can easily compare them to one another. I mean, do you at least see my point where I don't want that power centralized under the NCAA, and I definitely don't want the schools having that power just because I don't trust them. They have proven to be untrustworthy, right? And so I'm willing to say, let the kids work in the free market, put in some protections for them, make sure that they have accountants, make sure that you're having people check their finances. At the minimum, like someone checking their fucking tax returns based off of the money that they've received, whether it's W-2s, whatever, and make sure that the money that they're getting is legally and not some sketchy dude just some sketchy dude at a strip club handing them bundles of cash, right? Which already happens. and you can't account for, so it is what it is. But I'd rather do it this way and at least let the kid whose face everyone knows and people are buying his jersey. The NCAA is not going to cut him in on that jersey.
And the point you sort of made but didn't really come all around on is the university makes a ton of money off that image. And
but that's what I'm saying. They're not the university and the NCAA have the jersey sales. They've got all that shit, and they're not going to let these kids make money off of it, right?
But the university is cashing the fuck.
So what I'm telling you is allow that to continue, but allow the kids to make money off their own likenesses. You don't have to cut them in on jersey sales. I'm not asking for that. Okay. I'm not asking to cut in on jersey sales. I'm not asking to cut in on all the merchandise or any of it.
I kind of am. I'm like,
no, don't do that. Listen, if you do that, once you do that, you allow the NCAA and the universities and the institutions to control these kids even more than they already do. And I don't trust them, right? I do not trust them because at that point in time, all of a sudden, Terrell Pryor's making too much money off of his jerseys. Let's suspend him.
Fair.
And if you don't think something like that wouldn't happen, we've seen so much sketchier shit happen in the world of college sports. Like, come on. So let's not put them under the umbrella of these universities and the NCAA because we can't trust them. And do I trust sketchy car salesman guy? Do I trust, but it's, and that's the go-to.
You know what? It's an honest, corrupt interaction versus a
dishonest, corrupt interaction, right? And just like, listen, and all of a sudden, people say, well, that will centralize power in the Big Five conferences. Hey, you just said it's already centralized. It's the Big Five conferences.
Yeah.
Kids are already going there because of TV and shoe deals and all that other shit. Right? So what this would actually level the playing field even a little bit more because you have no idea what rich donor went to some small school. Right? Because before things got really, before the NCAA really locked things down, why the fuck was SMU good? They had Eric Dickerson, they had Craig James, and the team that they had. Well, and the reason why they had them is because SMU is a fucking small school in at the time the fucking SWAC conference.
Right.
But you had some big time money.
Evangelical donors.
Right. Some big time evangelical oil rich donors who said, why don't you stay here?
Oil is more important than evangelical.
Right. But why don't you stay here?
Right.
And they said, okay. And they
now,
did.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Most of the country doesn't. But SMU was so corrupt that they were the first
to get the death penalty.
Get the death penalty. They said, you cannot play in our fields anymore.
But
you're
why?
That fucking corrupt.
And the reason why, because of the money. But it wasn't because the players were getting the money. The problem was the NCAA wasn't getting the money. And they realized, that's when the NCAA realized how big of a moneymaker this was. And all of a sudden, everything changed after that. In terms of the money that the NCAA was making, these schools were making, and you were seeing the athletic directors. Now they're members of the board of the NCAA. Like Gene Smith will never say. Gene Smith, who's the head of Ohio State athletics, you'll never see him criticize the NCAA at all. Why? Because he sits on some fucking board for the NCAA, and they take him to junkets off in the Caribbean where he makes bonuses for just waking up in the morning.
And being in the Caribbean and
all that other shit.
Swedish massages or whatever. Brother, we got to shut this down.
Yeah.
Good show. Enjoyed it. We are at Whiskey Congress on Instagram and Twitter. Jim at Whiskey Congress, Steve at whiskeycongress.com. There's Jim at whiskeycongress.com, Steve at whiskeycongress.com. Yeah. You're going to get on me for that. Anyway, we appreciate the emails. We appreciate the Twitter feeds. Give us a listen. We are on Podbean, and we are out.